What are we going to do in Game 2? What is going to be the difference from this Sixers team heading into the second game? We are going to have to take what we had game planned, crumble it up in a ball, and throw it in the trash can because it wasn't good enough, and we're going to have to start all over and have a totally different game plan. And that starts off with what we tried to do with Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi, 45 points, just unbelievable. There's no other way to say it than unbelievable. The dude was dialed in and he was special. Siakam, 29, amazing. I mean, they were both amazing, and they're going to get theirs. That's reality. That's how the NBA works. The top players, they're going to get their respected points. But what we need to do, instead of allowing Kawhi to get 45, well, let's get that number into the 30s. 30, 35 points, more of what he averages in the playoffs. Siakam, 23. They're going to get points. We got to limit what they get. And here are some stats that NBC Sports Philadelphia threw out there. Kawhi Leonard, when guarded by Jimmy Butler, 5 of 6, 2 of 2 from 3. And I expected Jimmy to put up a better performance defensively than he did. Now, give credit to Kawhi because he was making tough shots at times, but I expected Jimmy Butler to have a little bit more physicality to the defensive side of the ball against Kawhi. When Tobias defended Kawhi, 5 of 5, 1 of 1 from 3. That didn't work. Ben Simmons defending Kawhi Leonard, 4 of 9, 0 of 3 from 3. Ben Simmons isn't going to stop Kawhi Leonard, but the length there is obviously something that threw Kawhi off at times. I think we need to have Ben Simmons on Kawhi Leonard way more throughout this game. Way more throughout this next game because clearly the other guys didn't work, and it's just the length and physicality of Ben Simmons that might give him a little bit tougher of a night. We need to get Kawhi Leonard to score 30 to 35 points and live with that. Obviously, less would be better, but 45, it's just too much. We can't allow 45. And Siakam at 29. We need to pull those numbers down. And it starts defensively. I need to see Ben Simmons on Kawhi Leonard. We need to play with their type of intensity defensively throughout. Offensively, with Joel Embiid getting eaten alive by Gasol. I stated I expected Embiid to play better. I expected Embiid to dominate Gasol. And here's why. I know you can look around and see how many times Gasol matched up with Embiid and the respected numbers, but I thought the playoffs would pump up Embiid to the next level, and he got bullied. Marc Gasol literally bullied him all night long. And I need to see maybe Joel Embiid get the ball closer to the basket. Instead of getting it at the free throw line and trying to make a move and just trying to put his body into him and Marc Gasol not moving, maybe we try and have some sets in there where Joel Embiid gets the ball a little bit closer to the basket so he doesn't have to bully a legitimate big man with physicality as much as he was trying to do. Offensively, I want to see Ben Simmons in the post. Now, Ben Simmons wasn't the problem. The fact that I hear people complaining about Ben Simmons today because of him in Game 1, it blows my mind. He had an average basketball game. Compared to what everybody else did, you're yelling at Ben Simmons? No, listen, he needs to be better. He needs to be more aggressive, but he wasn't the problem in Game 1. But I would like to see him in the post more when he's out there in Game 2. And what does that mean? Well, he's off the ball. So what does that mean? Maybe Jimmy Butler gets more primary ball handling positions. Give Jimmy the ball more at the top of the key. Let Jimmy run a little bit of offense and get Ben Simmons in the post. Now, what does that mean for Joel Embiid? Well, you can't have Ben and Joel in the paint area, so they might have to draw out Joel Embiid a little bit. But do we want Joel Embiid outside of the paint? That's why it's not easy, right? It's not an easy thing to do, but I expect the NBA head coach to figure this bad boy out. But I want to see Joel at times closer to the basket. I want to see Jimmy Butler maybe having the ball in his hands a little bit more to run the offense. And Ben Simmons in the post. I want to see him post up a little bit more because he has an effective back-to-the-basket game now. Joel Embiid was 5 of 6 from the free throw line. That's not enough. He wasn't getting fouled because he was so far out from the basket and he wasn't getting where he wanted to, dominating with his body. It just wasn't working. Gasol was shutting him down. Our bench, and I know when you take a look at the starters not playing well, that was a clear issue. But our bench is so brutal. See, here's the difference. Our bench hurts us. Our bench actually hurts us. Even though the Raptors bench, they weren't scoring, they weren't hurting the Raptors. They weren't hurting the Raptors. We self-inflict ourselves because our bench is so brutal. And I'm not giving Brett Brown a free pass. But here are your options with the big men. You want to put Boban out there? They shot 85% when he was on the field, or when he was on the court. And here's why. Because he's so damn slow. If he was out by the perimeter to defend the perimeter, he gets torched to the paint, torched to the rim. If he sags off and allows the three-point line, they're knocking it in his face. 85%. So fine, you go with Bolden. Did you see Bolden's minutes? Did you see how crazy he was defensively, where he was lost and blowing assignments? Then fine, Greg Monroe. He stinks too. The roster is flawed. And that goes with the Furkan Korkmaz thing too. I don't agree with Korkmaz, but Jonathan Simmons is your next best guy? He's horrendous. Zahir Smith? Yeah, he probably is. Yes, Zahir Smith should probably go over Furkan Korkmaz because he can at least compete athletically. I don't think he's ready whatsoever. The dude barely played in the NBA, and here's the second round with a fan base ready to scream their heads off if they don't make it through this series. So Zahir Smith is the answer, but those are your options. Now, I think Brett needs to do a better job of rotating the guys. I'm not mad that he did it early in the game, because you need to realize it's either early in the game or late in the game when your starters need to play this many minutes. Well, it's got to be early on. But when James Ennis, Boban, and Furkan Korkmaz are all on the court at the same time, that's where we need to work on this thing, Brett. That's where we need to look at different rotations. Mike Scott being out is brutal. Brutal. It's really bad. It's killing us. Our bench is a huge problem, on top of our starters not playing a good game. When it comes down to it, though, we just have to play better. We need more intensity. We need more execution. We need to get better looks. We need to play more physical. We need to do everything better in Game 2. Game 2 is going to be extremely telling. If we see the Sixers play like we just saw them play in Game 1, my level of fear will be extremely raised, even though we're going back to Philadelphia. I cannot see what I saw last night in Game 1, in Game 2. This is why I'm upset. We're better than that. We're better than that. The game plan didn't work. We need to add things. We need to do something differently and get better looks. But they look beat. They look defeated in that game. And that's where I don't accept it. I can't look at anything positively. I know some guys are saying, well, James Ennis was positive off his bench run. Sure. But does that really get me going? Does that really give me anything to grab onto? Is James Ennis's limited minutes off the bench? No. And I hate the argument that, well, the bench doesn't mean anything because the starters were the ones that got torched. That's not true. The bench does have a lot to do with it, although you're not wrong. For Kawhi to go 16 of 23, and for Siakam to go 12 of 15, for them together combined to score more points than our starters, a lot of that does go on the starters, but our bench is a clear issue. Every time our bench comes on the court, I'm like, wow, here comes a 70-3 run. You can see clear as day the level of bench depth. And like I said, I know their bench weren't scoring these unbelievable points, but their bench doesn't hurt them. Our bench destroys us. Am I a little nervous for Game 2? Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine watching another performance like that. And then where does my confidence level go? Not that I'm sitting here saying I'm the most extreme confident person in the world, but listen, I think maybe I'm praying and I'm having a little bit of optimism based off my fandom that they're going to look at yesterday's game, say, holy hell, do we need another level of intensity? And they bring it. They bring it. That's the only thing I can hope for. But I can't tell you why I hope for that other than my fandom is coming out. Brett has a lot to do. Brett has a lot to change. Not one thing can work from last game. And it starts with what are we going to do defensively to make it hard on Kawhi? And it's Ben Simmons. The one thing I also hear is bring a double, bring a double, bring a double. I'm not a huge fan of just bringing the double every time Kawhi Leonard has the ball because this team crushes the three. I mean, I would rather have hard-earned defense on Kawhi Leonard from Ben Simmons one-on-one than run someone over to Kawhi and leave a Kyle Lowry wide open, to leave a Siakam wide open, to leave anybody else, a Danny Green wide open. I mean, I'll take my chances with Ben on Kawhi, even though that's not an obnoxiously high defensive rate, but neither is a wide open three to someone else. I'm not a huge bring the double. There's times maybe here and there in the corner, whatever. I'm sure like it can happen to mix things up, but not in every time you touch the ball, go out, run out, and double team. I don't like that method either. I don't like that mentality. That's garbage to me. We got to come out hot. We got to come out ready to go and send a message early. Whether that's Embiid getting a touch early to show that he's ready to go today or tomorrow or in the game. We need JJ to start off hot. He can't be doing that. We need to come up with an entirely different defensive scheme. And at times, offensive, especially with the rotations, to make sure we have guys out there that can make stuff happen. And on top of making sure we have guys that can go out there and make stuff happen, we need to see those guys make it happen. Jimmy Butler, I was a little embarrassed for him yesterday. And that's not like him, but I was embarrassed for him yesterday. JJ Redick in the first half, you got to make more shots. You have to. 0 points at half. When he doesn't hit his shots, it's a problem. It's a problem. We can't be turning the ball over 16 times. Let me know what you think.